This is how Anya speaks Japanese.
スパイミッションワクワクワクワクワクワク
We say waku waku when we are excited. You can also make this a verb and say waku waku suru to be excited. So when you are excited to see an episode of Spy Family, you can say waku waku suru.
俺のことはお父様と呼ぶように。
父
So Lloyd told her to call him Oto-sama, which is a very polite way of calling your dad, and I don't think people today use this word. But she calls him Chichi, which actually is incorrect because we use Chichi when we refer to our father when we are talking to somebody who is not our family member. So calling your own father Chichi is incorrect.
今日越してきたフォージャーです。
ずっと前から父の子供のアーニャです。ずっと前から父の子供のアーニャです。
This is the correct way because she's talking to somebody who is not her family member. And if you want to know, the most common way of addressing your dad today is お父さん.
母手つなぐ母手つなぐ
Again, you don't call your own mom 母. You can say お母さん. So this would be お母さん手つなぐ. She often uses incorrect Japanese because it's cute. And she is. And if you want to speak Japanese naturally like this, I will teach you the kind of Japanese the real-life Japanese people today actually speak because textbooks and apps can be unnatural and outdated. So click the link and subscribe to my email group. But the way Anya speaks Japanese is interesting because sometimes she's not incorrect, but her choice of words can be a little weird.
父アーニャの長さ判明したアーニャの長さ判明した
When you talk about your height, you don't say 長さ length. You'd say 身長 height. And the word 判明する to become clear is unnecessarily difficult in this context. So a more natural version would be アーニャの身長失礼噛みました
違う、わざとだ。
噛みまみた
わざとじゃない。
アーニャの身長わかった And the next line, my favorite line, is kind of the same.
母の存在恋しい
存在 existence is an unnecessarily advanced word. And 恋しい to miss somebody is not a difficult word. But she's missing the existence of a mom who doesn't exist. So it's a very abstract way of phrasing this. In more naturally, you'd say something like お母さん欲しい But I think it's okay that she speaks the way she does because it's cute.
ピーナッツ買い込んどけピーナッツ買い込んどけ
Another cute line. So doke is a contraction of deoke. And oke is the imperative form of oku. But the thing about Japanese is the imperative form sounds quite rough and aggressive. So a lot of us don't use the imperative form at all. Some people do if they speak a little rough, but many people don't. If you say kae, which is the imperative form of kau, to buy, it sounds quite aggressive. If you say miro, which is the imperative form of miru, to see, it's aggressive. If you say Spy Family miro, watch Spy Family, almost sounds threatening. So what do we do instead? We tend to use the te form. So it's gonna be katte, buy, mite, see, which is much softer. And in this scene, Anya uses the imperative form, which is unusual considering her personality. And she said it in a cute way, so it just ended up sounding cute. But if you want to make this a little more appropriate, you could say something like, peanuts 買い込んどいて, but I think simply saying, peanuts 買って would be better in this situation. But she doesn't always speak in correct Japanese.
アーニャ一人で顔洗えるアーニャ一人で顔洗える
This is perfectly fine, except that she's referring to herself by her name, which is considered childish, which is fine because she is a child. Isn't it interesting that this way of speaking is also considered childish in English? Maybe this is something universal.
ケーキ食べたいケーキ食べたい
This is also perfectly natural Japanese.
人がゴミのようだ
This is a castle in the sky reference.
見ろ、人がゴミのようだ。
It's a very famous quote in Japan, so if you haven't watched Castle in the Sky, you should as part of your cultural education.
たまにはまあ感謝されるのも悪くないか。
父ツンデレ。
She said her dad is tsundere, which was completely lost in translation both on Netflix and Crunchyroll. It's one of many examples of nuances lost in translation in subtitles.
アーニャ、人混み大丈夫か？
大丈夫ます。大丈夫ます。
This is grammatically incorrect Japanese. Can you guys tell which part is incorrect? She should have said です instead of ます. So it should be 大丈夫です. This is polite Japanese, and Japanese kids don't always speak polite Japanese very well. They learn neutral Japanese first, and then when they are older, they learn polite Japanese. Japanese has different levels of politeness, and you can easily identify polite Japanese because it usually has です mas or their variations.
父、母、困ってる人がいます。助けます。困ってる人がいます。助けます。
This is also incorrect. Can you guys correct it? It should be います instead of いるます.
父も母も面白くて大好きです。
This is perfect. She uses chichi and haha correctly, and this is exactly the kind of situation that you would use chichi and haha, a formal interview.
なんか落ちた。
家族写真が落ちました。
落ちた。
I think this part is lost in translation. In Japanese, we use 落ちる for failing an exam, and 落ちる also means to fall. So when something falls, like the photo, it's considered bad luck because of the association. So there are things that you might be missing if you don't speak Japanese, and that's why I will teach you the kind of Japanese the real-life Japanese people today actually speak, because textbooks and apps are unnatural and outdated. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta.